All right, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, November 29th, 2023. Let's go ahead and jump right into things. Just as a quick aside here, interesting to note that we got a breakout here last night, and the market came right to our next expected resistance level to the tick. We've got, about 5, 6, 7, 8-point pullback to the tick off of our next expected resistance zone. I mean, that's why I want to call this not the S&P Roadmap, but Groundhog's Day, because it's like every day we come in and it's the same. It seems like the same stuff is happening. So anyway, let's go back to yesterday. Yesterday was a total disaster, right? We had all signs for the market to pull back yesterday, and we said in the overnight session that we had just ducked through the first line in the sand for that bearish bias, right? We could confirm or really start to get that first check mark on there for the weekly bearish signal. The market open, we held VWAP, so there was a really good short right out of the open. I believe I shared my short with you guys, was able to get my first target. And again, we came down and started to peak right into our first line in the sand. And I told you guys, we might have a scenario here where we get a peak below and it bounces right back up into the previous range. That's always a possibility. We see it happen so often that I pretty much tell you guys this almost every time we're coming into some type of major line in the sand. A lot of times what happens is we come into that line of the sand, we duck right through it. In this case, before the market opened, we ducked down 3 points through it. And then right after the market opened, we tested it 3 times here. And then we broke out to the upside. So we got essentially a peak below and bounce, right? We right through the level we wanted to get below and hold below for our bearish bias, and it never got there, right? So you guys saw I was holding my trade. We kept holding VWAP, and I was confident that we were going to break. And then next thing you know, we got the breakout back up. So it was a little bit tricky because not only did we get a peak below and bounce, peak below our major level line in the sand and bounce, but we got a peak above and fail. So if we go back to the midday, or actually within the first hour or two of the open here, we peaked down into our first expected support area that we expected to break to the downside. And then we came up and we got through the high the day before, probably now faking all the bulls out, getting them in heavy here. Look at these pullbacks, guys. Despite me saying this was kind of a tricky day, we still just ping-ponged back and forth between the VWAP, the 50% level, VWAP, 50% level. Then we broke out through the VWAP. We came to the hopeful. Pulled back, held the 200 in VWAP. Unfortunately, we didn't get a nice little parry right off the 50, but when we got back down to it, we came to it to the tick, bounced off of it again. We also had the 200 sitting there. I mean, in terms of the actual price action off our levels, another beautiful clinic. I mean, everything worked out beautifully. The issue was trying to suss out the direction of the market, right? We were expecting the market to sell off here out of the open. We were expecting the market to break out to the upside once we got a push above the high the day before, and then it came right back down. Right? And again, still holding these levels, still riding the back end of the FMA, still holding the 200 on most of the tests, still holding VWAP, still holding pullbacks to the 50% of the previous day, still holding the hopeful to the tick. It was difficult to decide what side to play. Because at this point, and I wasn't trading when we broke out to break through the high the day before, which would have been a clear rejection of our bias. Remember, our bias was to the downside. Our first rejection of our bias was getting through VWAP. And, now that I think about it, Kevin is a really great, he's probably one of the best traders in the room. Kevin's been with us for a couple weeks, maybe a month or two now. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin got long on the break of this VWAP on the pullback and was able to get this whole push up, because that's what he did the day before. Like I said, it's like Groundhog's Day, and a lot of these plays, it's like we fake out to the downside 2 days ago. We get down through VWAP, right? I got short here. Couldn't even get my first target. And then good old Kevin was waiting for the news. We broke out. He got long off VWAP and got the push higher. So basically, the same exact thing happened here yesterday. I don't think we had a news catalyst or anything like that. But, you know, that's just the way the cookie crumbled. A very, very difficult market to read. Peak below and bounce, peak above and fail, and then we just traded around the middle of the range for the rest of the day. Now, again, despite the choppiness, and I always have to point this out, we still pulled back right to our roadmap level, bounced right back up to 50%, previous daily close, pulled back. You know, we still parried off of these areas really nicely, but there was definitely a lot of chop and a very difficult time deciding what direction we really wanted to play. So now coming into our overnight session this morning, what happened? We're getting another breakout through the high of the day before. Is this going to be another peak above and fail? You know, I don't know. I don't think anyone can really tell you with 100% certainty what's going to happen here. What's that, Kevin? Okay, yeah. I mean, basically the play you did not yesterday, the day before, you probably could have made money on the same play yesterday there. So coming into this overnight session, we're getting the breakout, and again going against everything I expected, given that we had some higher time frame clues for the pullback. I think the main thing I want to leave you guys with this morning as kind of a teaching lesson is that we had a bearish bias, but you guys should have known that because we couldn't get through this very critical level, that should have been a clue that maybe the bearish bias wasn't going to work out. All right, and then once we got through VWAP to the upside, and we have our crossover here of our short, slower moving or faster moving averages there, and then we got through 50% of the previous day, the level we said we wanted to stay below to really have any confidence in our bearish bias. These were all breaking successively. So at that point, it should have been clear to you that, hey, Justin said this could be a peak below and bounce. Maybe that's what we should start playing, right? So these are things you want to be aware of. As an intraday trader, you have to be reactive. You have to be quick to change your hat when new information comes in, when levels start to be disrespected, and the market does the opposite of what you would expect. So you have to be quick to change. So today, coming into the open here, beautiful ride right off the VWAP all night. Again, I tell you guys, nearly every pre-market, if you would have just bought the pullback to the VWAP, you would have had nearly no risk and you would have caught the whole move. And again, it doesn't happen every time we test VWAP. Some days it could just travel back and forth. But again, overarching idea here is when you go back and you review this stuff, playing the VWAP to the upside or the downside, depending on where price is holding, ends up becoming a really, really great strategy. So we held VWAP all night. We broke out through. I added a new resistance level here, or support level. If the market does pull back this morning, we have a nice major swing up here. You can see it nice and clear on the 60-minute, I believe, which is the time frame I think I was looking at. So we've got that one swing in there. But that's basically it. We're going to get into our pre-market for this morning and see what the charts are saying for us today. Still, just blows me away, guys, that to the tick, right to that level that we've had on the chart for I don't know how long. I mean, if you go to the 60-minute, let's go ahead and do this, zoom this out. Nearly every task zone for the bulls for the last month or two that we expected to be major resistance has been resistance for multiple days before it breaks out to the next task zone, right? And we've seen this happen now, again, for 2 or 3 weeks. So coming into today, we're breaking out of this task zone where we're just having all this trouble. In fact, there it is right there, right? We came into it, we failed, we peeked through it, we chopped around, and finally now we're breaking out. And so this might be the push to the next task zone. We do have this, technically this is a resistance here, but really I'm targeting up to 46.03. So it won't be surprising to see them go ahead and pull back here right off of there. But don't be surprised if they come right up into there, right? So anyway, let's go ahead and do our pre-market for this morning. Just gave some of you out there on YouTube a little bit of a preview there.